week.
Oh, heck yeah.
Yeah.
So were you there all week?
Thursday through yesterday.
Nice.
And
Nice.
then I couldn't sleep last night. I woke up. I'm like, come on, back to sleep, Bob.
Right. I used to get swimmer's ear, and I think I've lost some hearing because when I'm back here, in the meetings, I can't hear.
Oh, really?
And I thought I was asking the younger girls, they can hear. But I asked your boss, with the guy that works with you, I asked Reed, I said, could you hear him? He said, no.
Well, I remember, who was it, Andrew was asking him a couple, or no, it was Ryan, he was asking him what he was gonna do out in Aruba.
Yeah. Reed had some hearing problems.
He's a good guy.
Yeah.
Aruba.
Well, he's not the only one, believe me. But I felt better knowing he couldn't hear him either. Especially that lady that does the title company. I can't hear a word she says.
Yeah.
She might as well not be told.
How's it going, Carter? Anything new?
Are you guys busy?
Yeah, actually, we're pretty busy right now.
That's good.
It comes and goes. There's waves and that kind
I
of
mean, I
stuff.
was just talking to Brock. I had a really good spring. My April was really good, May, but I'm like not getting anything now. So I don't
Yeah.
know.
For like a month there, I can't remember, it was maybe April, it felt like it was slowing down, but then things just kind of picked up. It's weird how that happens.
Yeah,
Brock has us making all kinds of calls all day though, so it helped out a little bit.
yeah. We got a lot of good, sweet people in the Hanover office now.
Oh yeah, that new
Perfect
team.
teams. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You guys too, Brock and you guys. I gladly trade you in for Selby.
Where he went to Iron Valley.
Yeah. Did we pay him to go? We should have.
It's a character.
Oh, he drove. Did you ever go deal with him?
No.
Oh, you're lucky.
Really? I don't think I've ever done one with him.
He's a lawyer.
So he is.
He thinks he is. So
I
it
see.
comes to the deal.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, and his people give nothing, and he wants everything from you. He's very pushy and, yeah, it was probably one of the hardest deals I ever had working with him. Speaking. Hello? Hello? Oh my God, I don't even get Medicare.
Yeah, don't you love it? I got 3 phone calls from Med and 2 of them was about, reducing your energy consumption yesterday and today. And I get this other call that your area was scheduled for a maintenance outage between 8 and 4. That was supposed to be for today. We are rescheduling that because of weather conditions. I have 3 accounts with Med 3 different properties. Nowhere in that message did they say, tell me what property it was for. And they're different parts of town. I think, okay. Yeah. It was Med Ed. I mean, it was actually, they say we're scheduling, they were doing some maintenance on something. And they had to take their power down for maximum of 8 hours. Well, okay, what area are you taking it down in?
All of it is out of electric.
I saw that.
Yeah, staying over at my place,
What happened?
which is fun.
They put a substation had a fire and knocked the substation out. And then Adams Electric had an issue. Cause Med Ed supplies Adams Electric, I believe, and
Really,
so it's like a,
chain reaction.
Yeah, it's all Littlestown. In Hanover, they're giving them, Hanover Red Cross and stuff, they're giving them water and,
Yeah, this is a bad time to not have AC.
yeah, air conditioning. Place too in Hanover to go. I don't know where it is. I just briefly saw it on the news.
I think there might be a couple. I go to the Y, and then they have, I think Neaters in McSherrystown has like a public pool, and then Cadorus has got a spot there too.
They're giving them,
They should let people swim in the lake at Cadorus. I never understood that.
the Mexicans do anyway.
I used to when I was a kid.
Yeah,
We'd go ride our bike off the dock into the
Yep.
water.
they don't listen. When we're boating, we get in.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, and I get what they're saying, like, safety and whatnot, but there's enough water, you don't gotta get hit by a boat, so.
state regulations.
Yeah, it's fun. So Carter, you're out working in the heat.
Dude,
Man,
Oh,
money.
Got- got to.
you still doing FedEx?
No, they had a mass firing. It's got rid of a bunch of people.
Oh my gosh. Woo,
So I'm trying to do showings for everyone and
yeah,
I had 3 showings yesterday. I did a lot too.
wow.
That's a good day. Heck yeah. Writing any offers off the 3?
Oh, they were I was covering for I was covering for somebody, so I just got paid to do the showings.
Hey, even better sometimes. They don't write, still getting a little money.
Yeah, I can use the
Kim Burton, she's something else.
What's she up to?
Huh?
What's she up to?
Look at her. She just put on Facebook, she's jumping over her house.
Jumping over a house. That's fun.
Her videos. She always comes up with something crazy.
Who's that?
Kim Burton. New listing. You never know what her videos are gonna be. She had this golf course for sale and they were riding in this golf cart and all of a sudden she threw her husband off. Like, she to make it look that way.
Oh, yeah, to do the videos.
Yeah.
People use TikTok as their video editor.
I mean, how would she make herself that big and make it look like he flew in the lake? Well, you know he didn't.
So back in the day, Brock and I used to do, well, and Blake and everybody, we'd do those videos all the time. But our marketing director, he'd put us up to it. He'd, tell us what to do and edit it and all that kind of stuff. Those were fun. That was good 4 years ago, probably now.
And he gave me the number of his marketing director.
Yeah. That was really good. We love Todd. He's a good guy.
Yeah, I'm gonna get a hold of him.
That's probably where most of our leads come through right now is the pay-per-click and the Google ads and stuff that Todd puts out for us.
Okay.
And then he does it for our listings too, like he'll if you have a listing in like a 55 and up community, people who are that age searching for houses, it'll show up on their Facebook and their Google and wherever they're looking. It's cool stuff.
All right, I can't wait to get a hold of him.
Oh yeah.
Maybe I'll do it after this. Is Brock doing it at 1 o'clock too?
What's that?
Something here at 1 o'clock?
I think Ryan rescheduled that with Brock.
Okay, good, because that was gonna get to be too much for me. I
Yeah,
would like
that-
to hear Brock too, but I need to get back.
Here in spirit.
Here in spirit.
Taking my Popeyes around today to my clients.
Oh, awesome.
I want to hit my York people while I'm here.
Yeah, for sure.
in
Yeah.
York.
What do you like for pop quiz? Do you pop?
This time I did fireworks.
Oh, yeah.
and The kids, bracelets and stuff, and always some little bit of candy. But last year though, I went to the home store and I got these, and they were only $3, but they were ceramic stars that light up. And I got a lot of comments that the ladies really like them.
It's cool.
They thank me. So it just depends.
Well, we're at 11. I see some people on our thing here. Hi, all my Zoom people. Thank you guys for coming in. To start off, I just wanted to basically run through what we're going to cover today. I have some slides that we do for our buyer consultations. We're doing the training on buyer consultations today. And also kind of give you guys a tutorial on how to make your own slides in your own consultation if you'd like to, or maybe even take some ideas from what we do and incorporate it into what you do. So I guess first off, obviously we all do like a seller consultation when we're going to get listing paperwork done, but who all here and Zoom people, feel free to jump in because we can hear you. But who here does like a buyer consultation anytime you start working with a new buyer?
Yeah,
Yep.
especially if they're new buyers.
Right, definitely the new people. Anyone on the Zoom, any of you guys do consultations with your buyers? I don't know if Mike Jones is saying something or not.
No, I think it's just not so.
Got you. Okay. Yeah, so basically, well, actually, Bob, you mentioned that you do a consultation. What do you do when you run over your consultation with your buyers?
I actually have, I have a printout that I created and it's from one of the templates, and I just really go over, especially for new buyers, just go over the whole process of buying it.
Right.
What's involved, where to start, just kind of, it's somewhat, I kind of pared it down because when I first did it, it was like information overload.
Right.
But it's not like you're just going to go out, look at a house and then make a purchase. I've had a few people try to do that. And I essentially sit them down and it's like an hour.
Yep.
I'll sit them down, talk to them about, what do they want? What are they looking for? What they need, what they like to have. But I get into the point of here's the process of how to buy a house, what
Right.
you're going to actually need to do to buy a house. Pre-qualification with a mortgage, how much money do you have, what's your credit score? It's just kind of go over that whole thing so they're aware that this is what you're looking at.
Right. And in doing that, would you say you have more success with the clients who actually come in and sit down and get taught all that important?
Oh, when I first started, I've had some clients that were looking at, they were up here, but they can afford down here,
Right.
And it's like, wait a minute, we need to have a come to Jesus meeting. It's like, this is what you can afford.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah, I think that's perfect. I mean, that's exactly why I think it's important to do a buyer consultation and really on whoever it is, even if it's someone who's bought a home in the past, I think it's important to do it with them to give them an overlook on what's happening in the market. It changes from person to person, like Bob mentioned, definitely got to do it with your first time buyers. And I think not doing it is a disservice to your client and you, because if the buyer has certain expectations about what the market's like or what the home buying process is, and they weren't ever sat down and really taught, hey, in this market, expect multiple offers, X, Y, Z, it's just going to hit them in the face when they want to offer at asking, but there's two other offers, and we know those offers don't work. Not in this market at least. So what I'll do is I'm going to run through in a second here all the slides that we created, and I'll tell you guys how to have someone create those if you want to. They cover all the same things that Bob was just talking about, and together they kind of do some discovery. I have I'll call it the whiteboard, but the notepad, and I want to go through the group and say, what do we wish our buyers would do more often and less often, and kind of create a list here. Because this is gonna help us create, what kind of presentation do you wanna give to your buyer clients? So let's start with the more often, let's just shout some things off, what do we wish our buyers did more often?
Listen.
Listen.
Listen, good. I like that. Okay,
Get pre-qualified.
pre-qualified. All right, pre-qualified before tours,
Write more offers.
I like that
What do you
too.
say?
Write more often.
Where'd that come from? They're on Zoom. You're not hearing things.
Oh, we got trouble setting that up, but it's moving on. Okay, so we have, pre-qualified tours, we want them to listen to us, we want them to write more offers.
They
Is there
should,
anything
they
else?
should also know their financial, have a better idea of their financials. I've had some people had no idea what they had, where they stood.
Yep, no financials, that's a good one. Anything else that we wish our buyers did more often? On there. You know, put in tandem with more offers, strong offers,
Yeah,
writing more offers is great, but if they're not gonna win.
I've wasted my time, so, and knowingly wasted my time.
And doesn't that, it just,
And I've told them.
yeah, right,
They don't care. Well, I won't be able to sleep tonight if I don't just try.
Yeah,
It's like, well, it takes me a couple hours to get this thing, you know?
This goes to a little bit of Bob's pre-qualified, but local lenders,
local lenders, I like that, or preferred lenders,
preferred lenders, yeah.
Yeah.
Not Rocket Mortgage,
right? Yeah, if we have partners,
One time though.
Rocket Mortgage. Oh my God.
I think they can be hit or miss, though. I've had
Yes.
success with Rocket, but also bad Rocket guys, but. I think it's important if you're partnered with lenders, maybe they're contributing to your leads or your CRM or what have you, you wanna dish them as many deals as you can, so. If we can get them using our preferred lenders at a higher rate, that's a good thing. And yet, you were just talking about writing weak offers that you know aren't gonna hit, and I think over time. Like me personally, I start to get a salty feeling towards those buyers, I'm like,
I do too.
you know, it ruins the client relationship a little bit there, and that can be prevented by doing a good consultation on the front end. So we have a list of some of our more offens. What are some things we want buyers to do less often? You know, a lot of them are gonna be just the opposites of here, but what are some complaints we have about the buyers we work with sometimes? They're not here.
Wanting to see a property before they fully read all the documents and the listing.
Okay, yep.
Due diligence, I guess.
Yeah.
yeah, that's a hard one.
Yeah.
Oftentimes you get there and they're like, oh, we didn't realize they get water in the basement.
That's even with getting them in the door. I mean, they want to see that property. They don't want to see me. They want to see that property first.
I don't know if you guys run into this, but I have clients that want to see it knowing that they don't want it anyway.
Just to go look
Yeah.
at it.
Yes.
Just as a comparison.
Browse.
Yeah.
But me.
Right.
When you have somebody looking for a place that has 4 bedrooms and then they send you, they'd like to go look at something that has 2 or 3 bedrooms. Yeah, like,
Say something, I'm like, you know, this isn't meeting your criteria that you know, but we want to see it anyway. It's like,
yeah, I start diving down to it, you're like, why? Why do you want to see this? Well, you know, maybe we could get a 4th bedroom. I said, yeah, but there's no, you know, there's no room in this house, you know, where are you going to put the 4th bedroom? Or where are you going, how are you going to, you know, try to get it that way? Sometimes it works, sometimes they're just more, yeah, I just want to see it.
One for me too, on that same kind of note, and I had this recently, I had buyers who submitted an offer, and while we were waiting to hear back, they were wanting to tour others.
I have that. too.
And they were so set, I live in Hanover, they had me drive all the way out to York just to look at one as a backup. And when we got there, we didn't even go inside, because they said, well, actually, we don't like the area, we're just gonna skip. It's like, well, thanks for that.
I know.
guys.
Yes.
I think certain questions can be asked at the showings to help prevent some of that stuff, like after maybe the 3rd or 4th showing, asking, are we getting closer here or do you feel like we're getting further away? And I don't know if they typically think about it that way. Like, as we look at houses, we should be getting closer and closer and narrowing down our hunt, not like, oh, wow, this one's completely out of left field. Why would I see this? And I think just framing certain questions the right way can kind of insinuate the actions that they should be taking. We should always be getting a little bit closer. We shouldn't be getting further away, or we have to reevaluate what our strategy is.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Yeah, definitely during the showing process, you can kind of hone in on what we should be looking at. I'm gonna write one for less often too. I have too often buyers who are saying something like, I don't want to get into a bidding war, so they're not gonna escalate or get competitive when it's a competitive offer scenario.
Yeah.
It's an awful objection.
I hear that a lot.
So no bidding war clients. Is there anything that we're missing? Anything else that, any objections that you've gotten or?
These buyers that's got it in their head that they gotta see 50 houses before they decide on one. And then they wish they would have bought the first or second one they saw.
Right,
It's
that's long.
gone. Yeah. I can't buy the first one. We just started looking.
Right. Sorry if you can't read my handwriting, not ready to decide early. That's the thing too, yeah, they will, like, well, we want to just get a feel for what's out there, run you all around town for a while before we decide, which. It's sensitive with buyers, because a lot of them, like first time people, they don't want to make a decision, and we understand that, but we also want to train them that. There's a cost to us going and showing houses and that kind of thing, so I think we've got a good list. And so what we'll do when we run over our slides, I'll kind of point out personally on our team why we have each slide and what we're trying to teach our buyers to help them have a better experience in a competitive market, and also to help us have an easier time giving good service to our buyers. And what I would do is, if you want to make something like what we have here, I would create your own list of what do you want buyers to do more often, what do you want them to do less often, and use a tool like ChatGPT. I don't know have we all used ChatGPT before? It's pretty awesome.
I love it.
And you'll see we've used
I
that
don't
to
know
get.
what it is.
I named mine Dolly a lot.
What's it?
I didn't know you could name it.
Oh yeah, I named mine. I pay $20 to name it a month, but I do.
I
Yeah,
think you get a better version too.
we
for that.
do. Yeah.
It's one of those AI language things, like, and the reason I'd say use that, so what we did is we kind of said, okay, what objections do our buyers give us? And what data points can we use to then show them why that's maybe wrong or why there's a better option for them? And so you'll see that in our slides here, but that's kind of how we found some of those things, and you can verify them, if you don't trust the AI or the ChatGPT. And you kind of go through a whole discovery process on how am I going to create this consultation for my buyers. So, and make sure I'm staying on track here. Yep, perfect. Okay. Before we move on, anything else to add to our list? Okay, cool. So what I'm going to run you guys through, this is what we do on all of our buyer consultations. And usually when we run ours, we don't just jump right into sitting down and going over slides with them. We'll meet the client and kind of do like a discovery period, build some rapport with them, talk to them, find out what their needs are, set them up on an MLS search, and get them tapped into the market so they see what kind of homes are out there. But before the appointment's over, at some point, we're going to run through these slides with them and lead ourselves into presenting paperwork as well to do that buyer agency. I'm actually going to write that here. BAC early on, because I think that's a big benefit you can get out of doing these consultations. It's a good opening to getting them to sign a contract with you, and they're not going to be shopping around with other realtors.
Luke, another thing to maybe note is that the reason for setting down for the appointment a lot of times is giving them realtor access to the MLS. That's normally the easiest ticket of how to get someone to sit down and actually come in and meet with you.
Yeah, no, that's a good point, Brock. Yeah, I'd say that's a huge way that we get our clients to sit down for these consultations is hey, I can give you realtor access to the housing market, not just Zillow. I don't know if this is still up to date, but there's a stat out there that Zillow only shows 72% of listings on the market. So you tell that to your clients, I can show you almost a quarter more. But it depends. Each client has their own needs. Someone who's the first time buyer, it's like, let me show you every step of the process so that you're prepared and you're not just guessing what's next. Those guys like that. And your experienced guys, let me give you a snapshot on what's actually happening in the market today. So they seem to like that.
Me too. I'm sorry.
No,
I won't be fair to you. I want to be fair to you. Both options in front of us.
Go ahead.
I don't really know how to explain to my clients, like, I know they'll see more properties with MLS, but my understanding of it is.
Look at how the carpet.
not MLS, it goes to.
That's not even.
It's
That's-
Zillow and
It just needs to be.
everywhere else. I don't understand why Zillow wouldn't have all of
Magic in a bottle. Not that. Huh?
Yep.
Well, the MLS has documents that can't be seen in Zillow and Realtor.com, like the disclosures. Sometimes the agents don't let them, they don't mark them as public, but most times you can
Oh,
at
I get
least
excited. Wow.
access the disclosure in the
I'm
MLS.
just gonna watch all the training videos.
And also, you can go in
All
and
the
see
things I
what
should
they're
have been
looking
doing,
at.
but I was too drunk
So
to
you
do.
can get an idea of what your properties are like.
Hey, Kara, sorry, can you mute yourself?
See what they're doing.
Yeah, when you set them up in Bright, you can go in and see what they're looking at. They can mark something or save it. They'll send it to you.
And that MLS too, that's where all of us agents are listing properties. This is what I tell my clients. And sites like Zillow, Trulia, Realtor.com, they're paying the MLS to pull listings off of it every so often, but there's a delay there. So it might not show up on Zillow for a day or two or three. And in this kind of market, the best priced properties are still selling in a couple of days. There's the fact that you can hard them, the documents, and it's just the quickest. The same minute that it's listed, it's going to go right to their email. So I tell them, you're going to be one of the very first buyers who ever gets to see that listing, versus waiting for it to pop up on Zillow. There's other people who might already have tours scheduled, that kind of thing. Yeah. So once you actually get them to sit down and you're ready to go through your slides, here's what we're looking at. We created our slides to kind of have this safari kind of theme to it. And so on this first page, I just explained that to him is, purchasing a house is kind of like going through the jungle. So you need a safari guide to make sure that you don't run into the lions, tigers, and bears. Oh my. So we make it fun, and I'll tell you guys how to get someone to make this for you, but you kind of pick whatever theme you want. You could use ChatGPT again to maybe come up with ideas, but you'll see this carried out throughout the whole presentation. This next one, this is just showing our buyers every step of the process to purchasing a home. So it's kind of like the roadmap to victory, so to speak. And again, it's safari themed, so there's snakes and bears and stuff that they're dodging along the way. I like this one because it sets expectations so that they're not frustrated. Like one thing I've had with buyers is we get them under contract and then they get irked at their mortgage lender for continuing to ask them things over and over. So if you work your way up the trail, you get your approval. We have your search, and we cater the search for comfy payments on your house. So we're not looking at things you don't want to actually purchase. We're touring properties. We write a winning offer. We get your offer accepted. We get through inspections and appraisals. And up here, we warn them, your lender's going to be asking you for more information. And that can get kind of irky because you feel like, hey, I sent you everything that you said you need, and now you're asking me for more things. That can be a frustrating thing if they're not, aware of it, So we're just preparing them. We tell them about a final walkthrough, and then happy day, we get our settlement and keys. We put this one in here to be kind of like a 60-second pitch on who you are, like an elevator pitch, what you're about, your experience. You can kind of cater that to whatever you'd like. But I think that helps with some of the things we wrote on here, like listen. If we want our clients to listen, we kind of have to build a relationship with them and establish, why should you trust me? Well, I've done X, Y, and Z. I've been doing this for so long, whatever. So you kind of have to create that and use whatever you have at your disposal to give yourself the most success there.
I've used something like this where it's more like a resume. So it's like get to know your agent and you set it up in resume style.
Oh, yeah.
It's kind of like your bio and then your history or your experience as a real estate agent, what you've done.
I think the resume is great in our industry because I don't think a lot of agents bother to create a resume. And I have this presentation on Canva right now. You can actually use Canva. They have resume templates, which are awesome just to fill out. It's super handy.
Because you're interviewing for a job, right?
Yes.
So that's kind of like that that mindset with it.
Do you also set your boundaries here? Like, do you have like a certain like, cause I get like, and I'm okay with some clients, but from 6 o'clock in the morning till midnight, I'm still, texting, like it can get crazy.
I would say this is a perfect place to do that actually, as like, hey, I'm available from here to here, and I like to take Sundays off, whatever that is. Because as buyers agents, obviously, it's tough to protect your time.
It is.
People want you 10 o'clock in the evening, Saturday, Sunday morning. So, it's easy to get burnt out and strung out and angry at the buyers you're working at if things aren't working and they keep, taking your time up from you. So that's a great point.
If you respond, though, you
I do.
immediately- Yeah, so do I. The-
Great.
Well, the bad behavior. Like, cause
It is.
oftentimes I'm trying to create that boundary and then I don't respond. I'm like, I'm gonna respond tomorrow morning. And then I forget till like
Right.
late morning. And then I'm stressed out about myself. So
Right. No, I agree. That's been a hard thing for me as an agent, is just to have boundaries, because I'm a people pleaser and I want to talk to them at 12 o'clock at night. Well, I don't want to, but
Right.
the fear is that they'll leave you.
yeah, it's the anxiety that I get from it.
I experienced that too, and this is kind of a separate note, but obviously we all ride that roller coaster with business sometimes, and it's because we're not prospecting consistently. So trying to protect that prospecting time, what I've done in my calendar is I've set up little 30-minute chunks throughout the day where I respond to my voicemails, texts, and things like that. So over time, in my voicemail, if you call it, it says what times I'll actually be responding to you if you leave a voicemail. And then so I just follow that time block in my calendar to try to protect certain times that I want to keep holy,
good idea.
Shannon, it's amazing. It's the best thing to do ever. And then you'll even have clients that call you and they're like, hey, I knew I would get you because it was 1 o'clock. Like, it starts to train them of when they're supposed to reach out to you because they know that they'll get an immediate response. And in this business, like, nothing is truly immediate. Like, you have 2 hours to get back to someone. It's never a fire sale.
Rock's voicemail, I think you even have your time block in there.
Oh, yeah.
of
Yeah.
when-
I do.
of when
Yep,
you're gonna
I do.
respond.
Yep.
Yeah,
Everyone call Rock and just see what.
Test it out.
I will. I'm gonna call you.
Okay. Yep.
I have voicemail set up. If you call after 7 o'clock, I will respond first thing the next morning.
Yep.
I also have like a standard text. If somebody texts me after 7.
Really?
I'm texting it, but I make it sound like it's an auto. It looks like it's an auto.
Okay.
I just say all text received after 7 PM will be
Okay, yeah.
returned the next.
Because I get anxiety. Like,
Unless
I
it's an
need to get back to
emergency.
you right
And there's very few emergencies.
All
yeah.
received after 6 PM.
And they feel like an emergency to the client, but we know from our experience it's really not.
Right.
And I find myself, I'm like, man, like, we have an important role to our clients. It's a serious deal, purchasing or selling. It's almost like going to the doctor's office. That's part of what we're doing as a consultation, is like a good doctor would do. We're gonna diagnose a plan of treatment versus just listening to whatever you say. Yeah, give me Vicodin, give me Percocet.
Right,
We're not just gonna give it to you. We're gonna diagnose the best way to move forward. But often they don't see it as the same way. Like, you wouldn't call your doctor 3 times at 9 PM if they didn't answer. So I think setting those boundaries is important. That's smart.
I think having the consultation is setting that up, how your transaction is gonna go the rest of the way through. Like, if
Absolutely.
they realize they have to come in and meet with you, you have in your thing, your hours, they're more apt to respect that.
Well, that's another thing that is very hard, because I can't get them to sit down with me. They don't want to.
Well, and so that is a challenge. Like, when we're doing our prospecting on our team, not every person wants to sit down. And so I don't know if anyone pays for Zillow leads, but those guys are calling. They want to tour a house in a couple of hours and things like that. I think for people who have some business going and some experience, I think it's a good idea to not drop everything for people who don't want to sit down and do the right thing, because we know as a professional, it's going to have more success for them. It's going to be a better relationship, better service for them if they can do that. And the people who aren't willing to come and sit down or sign a buyer agency contract to go look at a house, which is now a law thing, but in the past it wasn't. But the people who aren't willing to do that maybe aren't worth your time to a certain point. Now, if you're newer, it's you kind of have to weigh things out. You kind of want to chase, whatever's there for you, but you want to definitely start practicing those things where you want to be doing so much generation and so much looking for new clients that it's actually about disqualifying them and what clients are the good clients for me to work with, I think. And this consultation kind of serves to weed out the people who are going to be a time waster, tire kickers, or have really high expectations, but maybe not the capability to actually purchase, and you know what I mean? Those are just like the worst headaches to deal with. I feel like I'm talking so bad about buyers, but
It's people in general.
yeah,
I
right.
mean,
And two great people they're not always great together. So I think it's an interview process not only for you as being their realtor, but also are you a good candidate to be a client for the service that I provide? Is that gonna mesh with what you expect?
Do you think it would be helpful to bring like the buyer agency contract and consumer notice, like paper copies?
That's
so
what I
that they
do.
have to sign it in person?
I always
Maybe sometimes because like you said, you get somebody off realtor.com or Zillow, they don't want to take the time to come there, but they want to see you that night, that house. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of the business I think is about setting expectations. It's like if you're not willing to do that, then I can't help you. So, you know, it's illegal now. I can't show a property without it, but I think the same thing with sitting down. And when I do sit down with clients, I have a consumer notice and a buyer agency printed. Usually it's the last thing that I go over. So I'll go through a little bit of a report sesh, maybe an MLS search, and then I go through my consultation process here. And at the end, I tell them, here's paperwork that I have to show you. And before we ever tour a house, it needs to be signed. But I take a low pressure approach, you know, so everyone's
Right.
different, but I tell them, you don't need to sign it, only if you feel comfortable, and I just go through it. And usually they're like, oh yeah, what the heck, this is consumer notice, this is easy, you know? And not to go on a tangent, a separate thing I do too for those buyer agency agreements, because some people are cautious about signing them. I do this with all of my listings and all of my buyer agency forms. I write in there, I call it a no handcuff agreement, but I write in there that they can terminate it or fire it at any time. So if every single day I'm earning your business, but if I'm not, you can always just tell me to kick rocks. I think that, you know, sets the bar low to sign it.
So something I learned a couple of years ago at probably a Keller Williams convention, I would say, is the statement, like if you're trying to get a buyer to come in and sit down and talk to you and they're pushing back, is basically saying like, I want to take a couple minutes to outline how I work, the status of the current market. It would be a disservice to you if I did not have you come in and sit with me and wait, how do you word it? Or any other agent not having you in. So it's not just saying you're not gonna do it, but any agent that's really
Right.
doing that, it's a disservice to them.
right.
as a
I think
client.
that's perfect.
Yeah,
Because it's really the truth, you know, people don't know what they don't know. And I
Right.
think especially in this market, it's so hard to buy a house. If someone's just letting you go and tour a bunch of houses, buyers have deadlines sometimes, like the rent's gonna be up and they wanna not sign a new lease and things like that. So it really is a disservice. Like that's a very genuine thing to tell them. So I like that a lot. So this next slide, this kind of covers on the board, we want them to use our preferred lender more often and really for any ancillary service. Like sometimes we're partnered with title companies, you know, we maybe get some kind of ownership if we send them so many deals, whatever. There's all kinds of things, relationships you can build, home inspectors, you know. Every part of the transaction, it's wise for us to try to partner with someone who's doing the other parts of that transaction and get our clients to use them as much as possible. So we basically looked back through all of our transactions and came up with this data. That's how we have what we can show here. But I cover our team structure, how it makes us more efficient, and some average sales, comparisons there. I think what's most important is talking about our preferred ancillary services. So I kind of run through, listen, Mr. Mrs. Buyer, anything from loan officers to inspectors and home insurance, we have people who we can recommend to you. And at the bottom, this is our proven track record. So there's a 1.4% fallout rate, in our case specifically, when our buyers are using our preferred mortgage lender, our preferred home inspector, our preferred title company, versus a 15% fallout rate as a national,
That's a great stat to share.
Yeah, so and that's important to buyers because look, you're gonna be out money for home inspections, maybe appraisals, and that's not fun. Plus, all the time and energy and emotional investment into the process, and then just for it to fall apart because the lender didn't do a good job checking that the HOA was okay for, FHA or whatever, stuff like that. So it's just a chance to kind of build a case for why they should use our preferred people, which helps us, and we know it helps them because we have more success when we're working with people that we know and trust versus a Rocket or some lender from California who doesn't know, PA grants and stuff like that.
So if they come to you already pre-approved, do you still try to get them to switch? Yes,
do.
okay.
I do. I make a push for it. I tell them, hey, at least shop around. My people aren't going to do a hard pull. So the
Right.
soft pull, you won't notice it from measuring 1 week to another. You're not going to see it. I always encourage shopping around, and I don't really push people, because if they have someone say, like, there's some clients who have like a financial advisor, they've used them for everything.
Right.
Like, I get it. Just talk to my people, and if you choose your other people, that's fine. So, but I do make a push for it. That's actually what our whole next slide is about. This slide is devoted solely to our lenders. These are our lender partnerships with Tim Dixon and Vince Idavai. So I kind of give them some background on the both of them. I have had different customer feedback for both of them, so I kind of share them. If you like this, you'll probably like this guy more. If you like that, you like that guy more. Again, just trying to push people to using the people who contribute to us, who we've had good service with, and it helps everybody. I also show them an example of a cost sheet, and I can zoom in on Canva and I present it. So I can run through with them some things to expect on a cost sheet. And I like to use this slide specifically to try and coach buyers. This goes to knowing financials. Before we ever tour a property, let's reach out. I know my preferred lenders will do it. I also tell the lender, I say, if you reach out to my lenders with a text, they'll get you a cost sheet within an hour. So you can know what the numbers look like. And when you're touring, it's just a question of, do I like it or not? You're not questioning the numbers at that point. So I think that helps buyers with making a decision, and maybe save us some time on touring houses that, they see the numbers and they say, well, for that, I maybe I was willing to consider it, but at that cost, I actually don't want it. So.
With the Safari analogy, I like to use the example here of that the lender is like your vehicle that's going to help you accomplish this journey. And if you're going to California, you want to get a reliable vehicle that is going to get you to California. You can always get a different car when you refinance down the road, basically. So let's get like a true and trusted lender that we've worked with, and we know that they're going to do a great job. Once you get to your destination and you're in your house, refinance down the road with whoever you'd like to use, and they'll keep the loan.
Right, we got our little Safari car there, so it all keeps with the theme. This is a good one for the theme too, gear for winning offers. So this is a chance, I think, in my opinion, it's a chance when I do it to show my client that I know what I'm talking about. Look at all these different ways that we can make your offer better, because it's not only about price. I usually tell my buyers that, look, the purchase price and the amount of contingencies that you have, I kind of weigh them equally personally, because you can see an offer that's less, win a competition, a bidding war, because it's cash with no inspections, and similarly, you can see an offer that has a sale and settlement contingency win because you push the price up. So I just try to, I don't run through every single one of these with them, but I just kind of highlight a couple that they may not have thought of, like you can pay for the seller's transfer tax or mover help. This is kind of a unique one, but the property doesn't have to be broom swept, because in our contracts, it says that it has to be broom swept, and they don't always follow that, but letting them know, like, hey, if the property's dirty, we'll take it, and that can bring some ease to them.
This is a great slide. I like this.
Yeah, and so they all got these fun little icons like the water bottle and backpack and whatever. So.
And I disconnected at the beginning, so I don't know if Luke mentioned it, but like the idea of the whole, I guess, story is that you're gearing them up with the gear that we've been able to attain, I guess, over the years. So through different transactions, you learn these different things. And no, they haven't accomplished this journey maybe too many times in the past, but we have all this different gear that we're going to be equipping to them throughout this journey to make sure that they can go as smooth as possible. Sorry, Luke, if you already said that, I disconnected at the beginning.
That's okay. That's okay. It ties back to that first slide, the lions, tigers, and bears. Those are our obstacles. So, and you'll see we beat them up on one of our last slides. So you'll see that.
What is unchecked liquidated sums? Cover letter.
Yeah, so I think it's the second to last page. There's that box that we usually check, saying that if we were to default, all they get is our deposit. It can be wise to show some commitment, and you got to discuss this with your buyers. Leaving that unchecked leaves them open for liability, but if you're not going to default, it in a way shows that you're more committed. And not to get into the weeds there, but sometimes it's wise to leave it unchecked if you're leaving a really large deposit, because the likelihood of, even if it's a $600,000 home, if they resell it, but you're leaving a $25,000 deposit, if they were to ever take you to court, which most people are never going to do, they're likely not going to get $25,000, but you just promise them by checking that box that they get it automatically. You know what I'm saying? So, there's things to consider there, but it's potentially a way to help your offer, and there's comfortability levels in there when you're talking with your clients. Yeah, we got shorter timeframes, of course. Inspections in 5 days is better than 10 days. All kinds of stuff.
With a cover letter.
Cover letter. I think what this is referring to is when you send your offer, highlighting everything on there, so it's a little bit easier for the listing agent, just kind of buttering them up a little bit.
With
Yeah.
that, and if the client gives you authorization to do so, you could also share what their buying power is, so like credit score, DTI,
That's a good
like
one.
job history and or incomes, like basically what they fill out with the pre-approval anyways. But you have to get the client authorized to share that with the other agent as well. Oftentimes that can like support the conventional financing that you're submitting is like 800 credit score, DTI is 22%, and they make $10,000 a month or something.
One thing I'm noticing that we're missing on ours that we need to add is I love having, when they're working with my preferred lender, getting my lender to call up
Yeah.
the listing
Mine does
agent.
too.
Give
Yes.
some confidence in that buyer, it's super good. And then being able to tell my buyer client, hey, my lender is gonna do that for you. He's not just gonna, leave you out to dry, so.
That's a good value.
So this is a good one for, I think, overcoming buyer objections, and if you create your own consultation, I would definitely suggest writing down a list of whatever objections you're getting from buyers, whether it be interest rate hesitation or the market's gonna crash, which I think we heard more a couple of years ago, but every now and then people are still, waiting out for the crash, I feel like. And then you can use ChatGPT to come up with some data points on, how to overcome that objection. So let me slide in here. So this one that we have, at least, it shows interest rates over time in blue, and in red, these are home prices over time. So if I have someone who's complaining about interest rates, it's like, okay, well, look at where interest rates are at now. And over time, it's really not a bad rate, at the end of the day. So being able to see that is helpful versus just hearing that, because they remember 2s and 3s that their buddies bought a home, 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah.
But it's just, historic lows versus this is still a good rate when you look at the grand scheme of things. We put these two graphs together because you can tag, all kinds of different data points. Like if people think higher rates mean that prices are gonna fall, well, look at what happened in the 80s. Rates skyrocketed. I think it was from 12 to 18% basically in a year.
Oh, yeah, I was gonna say, ask your parents. They had a high rate.
It was crazy. And homes still appreciated, not as much, but they didn't go down just because rates went up. It was just less sales, less buyers and less sellers. And I like this little hump here. This is the 2008, housing market crash that when we hear crash, it sounds crazy, but when you see this, it's like, okay, it was just a little dip. And this was our biggest housing crash in all of US history. That's what we all know about. So even if it were to happen again, which we have reasons we don't think it will, it's better to have time in the market versus timing the market, because if you bought 3 or 4 years ago, even if the market crashed like it did in 08, you'd probably still be okay. So I just you kind of learn your data points and have different things. And this all depends on what objections has that buyer or fears has that buyer expressed to you, so you know which ones to hit. So I don't do the same data points for every single person that I meet with. I kind of think about what's the most relevant for this person to hear to give them confidence in the decision they're about to make. I like this one. This one kind of shows why prices have been going up so much. At least it's one of the reasons. The blue shows how many homes we built in a year, and the red is the population growth. So the way I explain it is all of this gap, this is people who need or need housing. We built only so many, but the population grew by so many. And over the years, there's only been 1 or 2 years where we've actually built enough to sustain the population growth during that time. But there's a serious need for housing, and that's why it's going to be competitive when you're purchasing. It's why the market's gone up so much. So you just kind of give them some explanation there. And then for your first time people, we have this average rent, because either way, you're paying to live. You're either going to pay yourself or you're going to pay your landlord. So rents continue going up along with the housing market. You see the average here versus, 10 years ago. So we have something for everybody.
Quick question.
Sure.
Did ChatGPT make this graphs for you, or?
So we didn't actually use ChatGPT to make the graphs. I think we used it to get data points. So we, or even just a Google search, you verify, okay, what are the data points? And then what Brock did actually is he went into Google Sheets, and Google Sheets, you can input different data points and it'll create those graphs for you. So literally all three of these, we created that through Google Sheets for free. Now you could also always pay a graphic designer, which is how we created the entire slide, all the Safari stuff. We didn't do that through like chat or anything. We tried, but it didn't work. But yeah, no, Google, and you can look up YouTube tutorial and it'll show you how to input everything. And that's what's cool is you can say, okay, whatever data points, for whatever objections I'm getting, here are the data points I think would instill confidence in that buyer or educate them best. And then free tools like Google Sheets, you can create a visual for it to show them versus just telling them.
ChatGPT will make graphs now too. It didn't back then, but they will now.
Oh, heck yeah, heck yeah. This one is basically a snapshot of our market. In Canva, I can edit these, to keep them up to date, month over month or every couple of months to make sure it's accurate. But this is just to set expectations on, we talked about, we want them to write strong offers. We want them to listen to us, more offers, things like that. We don't want them to be a no bidding war kind of client. Just expect a bidding war, because if the house you're looking at has no offers and has no interest, it's probably not a house that other people wanted for a reason. Usually it's overpriced, so the house that you're going to like the most is also going to be the house that everyone else likes the most. So expect competition. And so we show them days on market. Right now, the average, this is, I think, between York and Adams County, because those are our market centers. It's looking at 9 days versus an 8-year average being 57 days. So that's kind of an eye-opening thing for a new buyer, is like, whoa, houses sell in 9 days versus like 2 months. And it's like, yeah, there's a lot of demand, so you got to be ready. And what I tell them too is this is the average, but your best priced listings for what you get, the most valuable listings, are still selling quicker than 9 days. So you have to be very quick. You gotta see them quickly, and you got to make a decision quickly if you want to purchase successfully and maybe even try to avoid some competition. So speed is important. This talks about the supply of houses that are actually on the market. So we explained to them, first of all, what does supply mean when we're talking about houses? We use terms like months of inventory. So we kind of break that down with them. If you were to list no homes starting today, how long would it take for them all to sell? So if you stop listing any homes and all the homes on the market took 6 months or more to sell, well, that means we're in a buyer's market. You kind of have more power in that kind of a market. If all the available inventory took less than 3 months to sell, well, that means we're in a seller's market. Sellers have more negotiating power, and they have the high ground, I guess. Currently, there's 1.65 months of inventory. So after breaking that down, it's like, okay, what kind of market are we in? We're in a really strong seller's market, and you just have to be prepared to deal with that. So it's setting expectations with your buyers. Sales over list price, 28%. And in 2024, the amount of cash buyers was 32.6% versus the 8-year average of 23%. So just, again, you're just giving them a heads up that it's going to be difficult, and that they need to come out swinging if they want to get their offers won. Yep.
If they're like for sellers, if they're like the usual seller and want to overprice their property, could you use these data points to show them why they should rethink what they're selling it?
So if you stick around, actually, after we finish this, I'll show you one of the data points we made for sellers who want to overlist, because that's like your tough thing against sellers, but showing them that if you sell on week 1 or week 2 versus 4, 5, 6, how much more do you get versus how much less do you get? And that's been, for me, it's made it a lot easier getting them to a realistic price, and even maybe slightly underpricing so they get that bidding war, and you kind of have to teach them. But that's kind of a different thing too. So this slide, we created this as the sequel, just to, on the front side, let our clients know that the client experience doesn't end as soon as they reach settlement. We're not gonna fall off the face of the earth. We're gonna invite them out to our client appreciation parties that we do to keep in touch with them. We're gonna be calling them and check in and see how, mom, kid, and the dogs are doing, all that kind of stuff. We tell them that once they own their house, we have preferred landscapers and painters and handymen. So if they need someone who does quality work, maybe they're moving from a new area, they don't know anybody, like, we got you. We give you our whole list. And finally, we let them know that once a year, and I would definitely recommend doing this for your sphere, it's super handy, but send them an annual property report. Just let them know what their home is worth year over year, how the market's affected their home's value. And you'll have people say, oh my gosh, I didn't even realize that, like, is now a good time to sell, and maybe open some conversations, yeah. And for that annual property report, we don't run like a full CMA, because that is pretty time consuming, and if you have 200 past clients, I mean, like, you're not doing that, a CMA for every single one. We use, there's a website, you guys probably know about it, but it's NARRPR. And yeah, it's free. It does a quick and easy property report. You download it, super easy. And that's what we send out. And those things are so cool because it looks like you did so much work, but it really didn't. It is that whole report.
Yeah.
So it's and here's the recap. This is where we kind of covered the things that we've already talked about with our client. At least this is what we do. I like to make this section specific to that client, basically. So if they had fears about interest rates and we talked through that, or they wanted to know what their next steps are because they're new, I kind of cover the things that we covered on that meeting together. We have some little notes here. We want to equip them and guide them to their perfect destination. It's a competitive market, so you got to be prepared. We're here for you even after this journey, just some things like that. And I like to point out, you guys are now kitted up with all the gear that I've given you as a safari guide, and you've really put the work on these lions, tigers, and bears, our obstacles. So it's kind of fun. The bears cripples.
They all are.
Oh yeah, no, we put the work on them. And then this last one, this is a chance for some discovery with that buyer. So you've met with them, you've talked to them a little bit, you know what some of their needs are, maybe what their big why is. I think it's important to get from them, like, what's the real motivation here? And whatever that is, now we're going to create your story. So let's have a success story, not a bad story. So if you need to get your mom into a 55 and up community and you're buying that house for her, how soon do we have that done? In a perfect world, and we like to say this, if you had a magic wand, that's a super handy tool to just get the real deal of what they want. Because they'll limit the things that they tell you because they want to be realistic, but they don't know what's realistic, so it's a bad way to go about it. I like telling them, if you could wave a magic wand and in a perfect world just get exactly what you want, what would that look like? And so you'll hear from them. And then it's good to create a roadmap. So if you need it by July, well, we better start looking, 2 months ahead, and we better have it under contract 30 days before that, and you create a path to success and whatever success is for them. So we like to end it on that note. And so those are all the slides I have. At that point, usually I'll start going into buyer agency paperwork with them. So I have it sitting right there. And like I said, I'm not a pushy kind of person. I just say, I need to show it to you. You don't have to sign it. And I think that sets people's guard down to, if you tell them you need to sign it, they put their guard up and they're probably not going to sign it. That's my opinion. And what we did to create this is basically what we ran through today. We as a team, we started saying, okay, what actions do we want to encourage our buyers to do? And what do we want them to do less? What objections are we getting from our buyers? So we can use certain data points to teach them about why those objections maybe don't make sense or maybe do make sense. We use ChatGPT, and then to actually create the graphics that I just went through on each slide, what we did was we took pieces of paper and we kind of had an idea of like what we want it to look like, and we just drew like the silliest, I wish I had them still, but the silliest looking sketches on these pieces of paper. It's like stick figures basically. And then we went to websites like Fiverr and Upwork. So those are two really great resources for like freelance people. You can find graphic designers, whatever. And then we just took our really silly basic sketches and gave them to them and kind of said, here's what we're looking for. And they'll create it for you. You can have a couple different people create it, or maybe go through multiple drafts to really get the look that you want out of it. But it's actually that easy. And if they do it through something like Canva, or at least impose it into Canva, it's super easy to then go and like edit these things, certain time sensitive data points like the days on market and stuff. As that changes, you can go and change it. So.
And Keller Williams just partnered with Canva, so we'll have free Canva soon.
Free Canva. Yep.
Are you giving the buyers anything on paper? As far as, say, you're doing the slideshow with them, do you give them like a roadmap or something to take with them, or?
We do have that too, and it's really just our old set of slides. One thing I really love, I could pull it up here. I have a little Monopoly roadmap, which is, we called it Houseopoly, and it shows pick a realtor, it's every step of
Yeah.
the way. But yeah, I think having something to leave them with is great too. I think it's super beneficial. Just like a listing appointment, I like to leave all my stuff there so they're seeing it, and it's there with them.
Do you have the same thing for listing? Are you gonna do one of them?
So we could, our listing one isn't as much of like slides. It's a little different. We do have, Carter mentioned this, so let me pull it up here. It's in my starred emails. So this graph has been like so helpful for us when we go over listings. This is big. Okay, it's kind of zoom in. Oh yeah. Okay. So this is our pricing properly graph that we created. We made this using specific houses that we've actually sold. How many days were they on the market? What was their list price and what did it actually go for? So you can see it very clearly, the quicker a home sells, look how much more they're getting over their asking price. And the longer it takes, so when you're at 12 weeks, you got, let's see, on this one, 20,000 under your asking price. So it encourages them, you got to get pricing right. And when I tell them you got to get pricing right on the front end, because 90% of the buyers who are going to actually be interested in your house, they're going to tour it the first 2 weeks. So if you miss that 2-week window, you're not going to get what you really could have gotten. I like to, so right here, when showings occur, most of them on week 1, less on week 2, huge cutoff on the week 3, 4, and 5. So it's imperative to your sellers that they capitalize on this little period here. And then this shows an overpriced home brings fewer buyers. So this one has really helped me explaining to them, you got to get your pricing right. And on my comps, when I show them, paper comps, I actually highlight, if the comps help build my argument, I'll highlight, here's what they were asking, here's what they actually got because it was 40 days on the market. So I highlight those to point out to them. And then one thing that always works for them is, imagine if they had listed at their sold price from the get-go and they're like, oh, they probably would have gotten more. I'm like, exactly. Like that's what we got to do. But yeah, so we have things like that for this too. I think this one, yeah, we still have this branded Remax, so we got to change that. Sorry, Ryan. But yeah.
Our buyer side stuff is more like instructional, I would say, or would you say, Lucas? Then I feel like our seller side stuff, we've adapted and changed it a bit more recently, where it's more of like just it's all about them. It's basically like a lot of questions. One of the things going to Mega Agent Camp last year, one of the best things that we learned from there, well, I guess twofold thing here for pricing, but number one, the amount of questions that you ask determine the amount of commission that you're going to be able to charge. So we have a specific sheet that we go through, a lot of questions. Luke, can you think of any on there? Like even what type of mortgage? Because we want to see if it's assumable. Have they thought about movers? Are they going to use movers? Do they need a rent back? Do they need basically anything that we've come across is like, oh, this was an issue and turned into a hassle later into a transaction. We want to stomp all that out on the front end. So we have a very clear picture of what their expectations are and how we can help them the best. And then for pricing, the really good thing to do when you first, like, you sign listing paperwork before you hit the market, tell the seller, we're looking in the first 7 days, we're looking for one of 3 things, either 3 separate showings, a double showing by the same buyer, or an offer. If we don't have one of those 3 things, the data tells us that we're 3 to 5% overpriced and we should adjust accordingly. So you've already set expectations on the front end for the price adjustment later if you need to have it, because you just told them the data tells us if we don't have one of these 3 things, the market's talking to us, we need to listen. So I think it helps a lot getting that elephant out in the room on the front end, setting that expectation. That way the price adjustment isn't a surprise to them later.
Right, and with those seller appointments, like he mentioned, we have a whole form with every question that we like to ask every single seller. When we even ask them, have you ever thought about selling it on your own? And most of them are like, well, heck no, like that's why I'm talking to you. But I think it helps build some trust because like I'm not just there to sell them, I'm here to find what's best for them. And with pricing and stuff, I just take I always like telling them, asking first for getting permission to be 100% honest with them, because if I'm not honest with you, that's the only way that we're going to have a good relationship and you're going to have a good experience selling your house. And they're like, of course, I want you to be honest. And then I can really just hit them with like, here's what you should list at, like I do this is what my opinion is. And yeah.
What did he say we were looking for? He said that so fast.
He just did it so fast.
Yeah. 3 showings, either a double showing by the same buyer or an offer. Yep, and you want that within your first week, or it's a sign that you're 3 to 5% overpriced. Thanks.
I'm sorry, can you say that?
That's okay, yep, you want,
5% overpriced.
yep, you want in your first week, you want 3 separate showings. Or a double showing by the same buyer. Or you want an offer.
Okay. And it's good.
And
I
if you-
mean, that's true.
if you
And
don't-
in this market, definitely.
Yeah, and if you don't get at least one of those 3, ideally you'll have more or like all 3. But if you don't get at least one, like that's the market telling us we're 3 to 5% over.
Thank you.
Of course.
Will these be, you won't share these slides, will you?
We talked about that. I think.
Brock, please.
You hear that, Brock?
Yeah. Let me think about it briefly, Shannon. I'm a super open book. I think we ended up spending like $4,000 on these,
Well,
to be
just-
honest with you. It was super
Sharon, like,
expensive. So
use
let
them.
me,
I mean,
yeah,
like,
give me one night to sleep on it. But we're pretty free flowing. So let me see.
I just need highlights of
Thank
what-
you.
Yeah, thank you guys for attending. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing it with me.
I just need highlights of everything because this was a lot of info. I mean, I know I wrote it down, but I'm like,
I think what I'm
Great.
talking about, what we'll probably give out, we have a training document that we made for like,
you.
yeah, like we have a new guy, Ethan, who just joined, so we made these kind of stuff for him, and it's what we have, well, it's actually right here, buyer slide talking points. So
Yeah.
these are
just
all the
something like that.
hit points of what we cover in our presentation.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That would be good.
yeah, definitely. So,
But then he goes through his marketing guide to do everything.
God didn't do this for us, actually. We went through the companies we checked was a place called Fiverr and a place called Upwork. And so those are just websites, but it's kind of like, what's the one? LinkedIn. You know, you just find other professionals who are doing different work and, you know, they're selling their work. So you say, okay, for this price, this guy could do this, or, you know, you shop around a little bit. And you get someone, they'll give you a rough draft and you say, okay, I like this about it, but I don't like this. And then they'll give you another one. And, you know, you kind of find out where you're gonna go as you do it.
See, they have all the nice
Yeah.
things there. All you have to do is download
They're
them.
really good. Mhm.
Yeah, so that was a lot easier than me trying to come up with it.
Oh, yeah.
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 And did you
For-
specifically tell the first?
For everyone that would like the slides, if you want to give a business card to Luke, and we'll get them over to you.
My question was when you were picking a company to work with, it's a graphic company, did you tell them you wanted everything to be put into a Canva format
We did.
that you could edit?
Correct.
And, you know,
Cause that's super handy. Versus if you ever need to change it, then you have to reach back out to them.
Yeah.
There's wait time and all that. So
If we're online, how should we, and want a copy of the slides?
well, just shoot me an email and that'll work just as good for anyone on Zoom who would like a copy. If you shoot me an email, that'll work fine.
Thank you.
Of course, no problem.
and can you do a listing one in the near future?
I'd be happy to. I was gonna ask around the room, can I get a rating 1 out of 10? How helpful was
This
this?
is 10.
Good?
Yeah, this is 10.
I'll give it 10, yes.
You can be honest, I won't be mad.
You're great.
Cool.
Always
very thorough.
honest.
Thank you guys. Thank you.
This was great,
Yeah.
just for sharing us, Brock, same for you.
Yeah, thank you.
Just allowing you to just share with everybody else what your team does. Obviously, you have a good track record. And we wanted to show like, hey, there's a value presentation out there that everyone should have. You don't need to replicate this exactly, but at least it gives you, I think, main bullet points and a blueprint to work on and create your own, like for some of the newer teams or newer agents in here.
Yeah.
And even enhance the one that you have if you've been doing it for a while.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. It's fun. You get to be creative for a little bit and say like, what do I want the theme to be? Safari's cool. I don't know what else, you know, something.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Shoot
Thank
the
you.
ladders.
Yeah.
Inspired.
Well, thank you guys.
Thank
you.
This card, yeah, but I wrote
Thank you,
down my-
Luke. Great job.
Thank you. I'm ready for this week, hopefully.
What's your email?
It's Lukas Lukas.
And do not mine. It is yours. I actually just canceled my toolkit yesterday. It's that presentation, it's like.
So far, drops.
I'll see you at home.
That's right. Thanks.
It was Lucas sold by Brock.
Yep, and it's Lucas with.
Here. But it's still. It doesn't have any. There.
That's a lot of play,
Yeah.
for sure.
But it's easy.
I did. I did. Oh my God. It's Boston.
And what do you call it?
I call them slides. Quotation slides.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for coming, Danny.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Be clear, like, if you're committed to